Imagine Europe after the fall of Rome. What do you see? For many, the image is one of desolation, a continent shrouded in mystery and decline where the achievements of the ancient world seem to have faded into obscurity. Many picture a continent plunged into chaos, its streets deserted, its people struggling to survive in the shadow of a lost civilization. They envision crumbling cities, lost knowledge, and endless warfare. A world where learning and progress have come to a halt and violence reigns supreme. This is the image of the Dark Ages, a period often portrayed as bleak and stagnant, where darkness supposedly swallowed the light of reason and culture. But this view is a myth, a simplification of a complex and fascinating era. The reality is far richer and more nuanced than the stories we often hear. The truth is far more interesting. Even as old powers faded, new ideas and institutions began to take root, lighting the way for future generations. The centuries after Rome's fall were not dark. In fact, they were alive with energy, innovation, and the birth of new communities. They were a time of immense change, creativity, and yes, even light. Artisans, scholars, and inventors worked tirelessly, laying the foundations for the world we know today. The so-called Dark Ages witnessed the birth of new societies, new technologies, and new ways of thinking. Cathedrals soared, clocks ticked for the first time, and fields yielded more than ever before. While Europe was reshaping itself, other parts of the world were experiencing their own golden ages. Trade routes connected distant lands and ideas traveled farther than ever. From the Islamic world to China, from the Americas to Africa, innovation flourished. Great thinkers, builders, and explorers were transforming their societies in remarkable ways. To call this period dark is not only inaccurate but does a great disservice to the achievements of humankind. It overlooks the resilience, ingenuity, and hope that defined these centuries. It's time to shed light on the truth about this era and appreciate its true significance in world history. By looking closer, we discover a time not of darkness, but of transformation and enduring brilliance. The term Dark Ages is commonly used to describe the period in European history stretching from the 5th to the 10th centuries AD, a time that has long been shrouded in mystery and misconception. This era began after the dramatic fall of the Western Roman Empire, when its once unified territories splintered into a patchwork of smaller, often competing kingdoms and regions. The collapse of Roman authority led to widespread political instability, frequent warfare, and dramatic changes in daily life for people across Europe. Without the centralized administration and infrastructure of Rome, new rulers and local warlords rose to power, establishing independent kingdoms that often struggled for dominance. As a result, trade routes that once connected distant parts of the empire broke down, cities lost their populations, and the preservation of classical knowledge became increasingly difficult. The phrase Dark Ages itself wasn't used at the time. It was coined centuries later, during the Renaissance, by scholars who looked back and saw this period as a time of cultural stagnation. Renaissance thinkers admired the achievements of ancient Greece and Rome, and they believed that the centuries following Rome's fall represented a sharp decline from those heights. They often dismissed the art, literature, and architecture of the Middle Ages as crude or unsophisticated, failing to recognize the era's own innovations and complexities. Over time, this negative perception became deeply rooted in popular culture and education, and the label Dark Ages stuck as a shorthand for decline and ignorance. Today, however, historians challenge this outdated view, emphasizing that the so-called Dark Ages were also a time of adaptation, resilience, and even creativity, laying the groundwork for the Europe that would emerge in later centuries. Historians today reject the term Dark Ages for several reasons. First, it's inherently judgmental. It implies that this period was devoid of progress or achievement, which is simply not true. Second, the term is Eurocentric. It focuses solely on Europe while ignoring the significant advancements happening in other parts of the world during this time. Third, and most importantly, the Dark Ages label ignores the complexity and nuance of this historical period. It was not a monolithic era of decline but a time of transformation, adaptation, and in many ways progress. New societies were forming, new technologies were emerging, and new ideas were taking root. While Europe was undergoing its own unique evolution, other civilizations were flourishing. The Islamic Golden Age, the Tang dynasty in China, the Mayan civilization in Mesoamerica, all these cultures reached their zenith during this period, making significant contributions to science, art, and philosophy. One of the key institutions that emerged from the ashes of the Roman Empire was the Christian monastery. Scattered across Europe, monasteries became centers of learning and literacy. Monks diligently copied and preserved ancient texts, ensuring that classical knowledge did not disappear entirely. They also produced their own works of history, theology, and literature, contributing to the development of a new medieval intellectual tradition. Monasteries were not just repositories of knowledge, they were also centers of innovation. Monks were skilled farmers, developing new agricultural techniques that increased food production. They were also skilled craftsmen, producing illuminated manuscripts, metalwork, and other objects of great beauty and sophistication. The monasteries, therefore, played a vital role in preserving the past and shaping the future of Europe. They served as bridges between the ancient world and the medieval, ensuring that the flame of learning continued to burn, even in times of great change. While monasteries preserved knowledge, technological advancements in the so-called Dark Ages fueled economic and social progress. The heavy plow, capable of turning over the rich, heavy soils of northern Europe, led to a surge in agricultural productivity. This, in turn, supported a growing population and the development of towns and cities. The watermill, another crucial innovation, harnessed the power of water to grind grain, power sawmills, and perform other labor-intensive tasks. This freed up human labor for other pursuits, further stimulating economic growth. These technological advancements, often overlooked or minimized, were crucial to the development of medieval Europe. They laid the foundation for the economic and social transformations that would characterize the later Middle Ages and the Renaissance. The so-called Dark Ages also witnessed a flowering of architectural innovation, most notably in the construction of magnificent cathedrals. These towering structures, built in the Gothic style with their pointed arches, ribbed vaults, and soaring stained-glass windows, were feats of engineering and artistry. The construction of these cathedrals required the collaboration of skilled architects, masons, carpenters, and artisans. It spurred advancements in engineering, mathematics, and materials science. Moreover, cathedrals were not just religious buildings, they were centers of civic pride, places of learning, and often served as the heart of a city's social and economic life. The construction of a cathedral was a monumental undertaking, often spanning generations. It reflected the faith, ambition, and ingenuity of the people who built them. While Europe was undergoing its own transformation, other parts of the world were experiencing periods of remarkable cultural and intellectual flourishing. Across continents, civilizations were reaching new heights, each contributing unique advancements that would shape the course of human history. These golden ages were not isolated events but rather vibrant chapters in a global story of innovation, creativity, and exchange. The Islamic Golden Age, from the 8th to the 13th centuries, saw an explosion of knowledge in mathematics, astronomy, medicine, and philosophy. Cities like Baghdad became renowned centers of learning, attracting scholars from across the known world. Here, thinkers translated and preserved ancient Greek, Persian, and Indian texts, while also making their own groundbreaking discoveries that would influence generations to come. Scholars in Baghdad, Cairo, and Cordoba made groundbreaking discoveries, preserving and building upon the knowledge of ancient Greece and Rome. Their work in fields such as algebra, optics, and medicine laid the foundations for future scientific revolutions, and their libraries became repositories of wisdom for the world. In China, the Tang dynasty, between 618 and 907 AD, is considered a golden age marked by economic prosperity, territorial expansion, and a flourishing of art, literature, and technology. The imperial capital of Chang'an was one of the largest and most cosmopolitan cities of its time, drawing merchants, artists, and scholars from across Asia and beyond. The invention of gunpowder and woodblock printing during this period would have a profound impact on world history. These innovations not only transformed warfare and communication in China, but eventually spread across continents, shaping societies far beyond their origins. In Mesoamerica, the Maya civilization reached its peak, developing a complex writing system, a sophisticated calendar, and impressive cities with monumental architecture. Maya astronomers charted the movements of the stars and planets with astonishing accuracy, while scribes recorded history, myth, and science in beautifully illustrated codices. Meanwhile in Africa, kingdoms like Ghana, Mali, and Songhai thrived, establishing extensive trade networks and becoming centers of learning and cultural exchange. Cities such as Timbuktu became legendary for their libraries and universities, attracting scholars and traders from distant lands. These civilizations not only accumulated great wealth, but also fostered vibrant cultures that celebrated knowledge, art, and innovation. Across the globe, these golden ages were interconnected by trade, travel, and the exchange of ideas, weaving a rich tapestry of human achievement that continues to inspire us today. The so-called Dark Ages were far from dark. This period witnessed the birth of new societies, the preservation and advancement of knowledge, and the flourishing of cultures around the world. The term Dark Ages is a misnomer, a relic of an outdated view of history. It's time to abandon this simplistic label and appreciate the era for what it truly was. A time of immense change, creativity, and resilience. The period after the fall of Rome was not a decline into darkness, but a slow and difficult climb towards a new dawn. History is not a linear progression from darkness to light, from backwardness to progress. It's a complex and interwoven tapestry, with threads of innovation, decline, and rebirth running through every era. The so-called Dark Ages teach us that even in the face of adversity, human civilization finds a way to adapt, innovate, and ultimately progress. By recognizing the achievements and complexities of this period, we gain a richer and more accurate understanding of our shared human story. We see that the past is not something to be feared or dismissed, but a source of inspiration, reminding us of the resilience of the human spirit and the boundless capacity for innovation that exists within us all.